The time for one segment and returns to school. She is a high school girl, a courageous one, and a terrific athlete. And that is Selena Soul, and she gives this week's PragerU video as well. Along with her is Kristen Wagner, whom I've had on before, of the Alliance Defending Freedom, who is her lawyer. She and others, but she specifically has lost the ability to win at track because she was a champion in Connecticut, and she now has to race against biological males who consider themselves females. We are not knocking their ability to consider themselves females. That is not the issue. The issue is so obviously one of fairness. Why can a biological male, if a biological male can race against a biological female, why are there biological female teams? Might be the end of it, in fact. Anyway, Selena, I want to salute your courage and your athleticism. Welcome to my show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
And Kristen, it's good to be with you again and the great work that ADF does. So what is the state of your lawsuit, either of you, against the state of Connecticut?
Well, the lawsuit is in the trial court now before a judge, and we expect that the judge will rule on a motion to dismiss, and it will continue up through the court system. And our expectation is ultimately the U.S. Supreme Court's going to need to decide this issue.
Have you seen the article in the New England Journal of Medicine?
I don't know that I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
No, that's fine.
So
it just
tell me a little bit more about it. There are a number of articles on the topic.
Oh, there are? I didn't know. I just saw the latest, and it's further deterioration of the New England Journal of Medicine into a political magazine. The argument is, and I'd like either of you to respond on this too, the argument is that lower testosterone levels should suffice to enable biological males to race against females.
Well, I would say that's junk science because there are plenty of other studies, including a 2019 Swedish study that says males actually maintained or even increased in strength after a year of suppression. And we actually saw this in C.C. Tefler's performance times in Division II, where CC's times actually improved in track and field events after a year of hormones and competing from a man and then transitioning to a woman. So I think there are plenty of studies that would contradict that.
Selena, how do the other girls on your track team react to this?
I've gotten a lot of support, especially in person. I've had not only my former high school teammates, but also just other athletes that meet and even parents come up to me and thank me for my speaking out. So most of the feedback that I've gotten has been in support of me, which is very encouraging.
Tell everybody how these two transgender females fared when they raced against biological men.
When they
go ahead, Selena.
When one of them always competed as a female, but one did compete as a male for 3 seasons, and then 2 weeks later switched to competing for the girls' team. And prior to that time of being on the girls' team, that athlete could not qualify for even the boys' conference championships in the state of Connecticut.
But Dennis, they've won 15 women's state championship titles since they switched over, and 17 new individual meet records have been set by these men who are competing against the girls, and causing girls to lose state championships and opportunities and college scouting experiences as well.
What takes... actually, before I go to the locker room issue, which is not my fundamental issue, it's a curiosity, but if I met these two, Selena, not knowing anything, would I feel that I was with 2 women or 2 girls?
In our case, we're not focusing on just these 2 athletes. We are focusing on the whole whole concept of biological males competing against females, and all we're asking for is fairness to be returned to not only track and field, but all women's sports.
Is it going beyond these two? Has this phenomenon increased?
In the state of Connecticut, there were only these two athletes, and they graduated this past year with me. But there are dozens of other cases in all sports, not only in the U.S., but even across the world and at different professional levels. So it's not only an isolated incident.
How do you like your video?
I thought it came out very well.
Well, you really did a good job. Are you headed to college?
Yes, I am in college.
I see. And are you aware, well, I guess there have been no sports events, so you don't know if this issue will arise at your college, right?
Yes, we did not have a fall season, and we still are waiting to hear about a winter and a spring season.
I feel bad asking this, but have you received any hate?
I have received a lot of hate, but all of that hate has been through social media, so I don't pay attention to it. I just focus on the positive feedback and the fact that I know what I'm doing is right, and that regardless of what comments come my way, I know that no matter what, fairness needs to be restored to all women's sports.
Can you explain to me why you're so mature?
I think that going through this process has certainly made me into more of a mature person than most my age.
Well, it's a very mature answer, as it happens. I was going to ask, and this is a curiosity question. I have no agenda. Did your track team dress up in a locker room prior to a competition?
We never had locker rooms that the athletes would use during meets, because we would have come, because most of our meets were with 10, 15 schools, so there wasn't a way for anyone to be in a locker room. So we would just kind of all, get on the bus or get on the van and all show up to the meet.
So already dressed up to race?
Yes.
Gotcha. So obviously the question would be moot. So back to Kristen. This is now at a trial, Judge, and is it just going to be one of these things that if it's a Democratic appointed judge or a Republican appointed judge, and that's the end of the issue? What do you think?
We're concerned. We filed in Selena's case a motion to recuse the current judge because of some statements that he was requiring us to refer to these individuals or not refer to them as biological males, and suggesting that science would dictate that, which is incorrect and we believe shows bias. Unfortunately, that he declined to recuse himself, and so he will be deciding this case, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to convince him otherwise, but if not, the case will go up on appeal, and, Dennis, many of the cases we may lose at the lower courts, but it's a long game that we're playing here. And you may not be aware there's a second case involving college athletes in Idaho in this issue as well, and that's at the Ninth Circuit too. But Selena started this, and the courage that she had in standing up for all female athletes is tremendous.
Selena, are your parents, do they have your back?
Yes, my parents have fully supported me the entire time, and it was actually my mother who started speaking up before I did, and then after I lost out on qualifying for the 2019 Indoor New England Championships is when I started going public with this. My parents have always supported me, and they're very proud of what I've become and what I've done.
Do you have siblings?
No, I'm an only child.
Oh, how interesting, for whatever reason. Did you grow up in a more secular or more religious home?
I don't think that really matters. It's just that my parents, always taught me.
Well, I'll tell you why I
fight
asked.
for what I believe in.
You don't have to answer. Believe me, I asked because I don't know if the secular world produces courage. I have an agenda. That's my agenda. So you don't have to respond, but I want you to know why I asked. My assumption is that people who have courage to buck the totalitarian herd are overwhelmingly people from religious backgrounds. But that's the reason I asked, and you certainly don't have to respond. Anyway, we all salute you. Please go and watch her video. Kristen, God bless the ADF. And God bless you, Selena, secular or religious.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Where are we? What direction are we in? Are we headed towards? If I told you that one of these 2 Democrat candidates for Senate has called police gangsters and thugs, would you believe it? Of the 2 of them, which one do you think it would be? Raphael Warnock or Jon Ossoff? You'd probably think Ossoff, surely a guy with Reverend in front of his name, wouldn't call police gangsters and thugs. But actually, you would be incorrect. It's the Reverend who has called police officers in America gangsters and thugs. Now, we got a lot of drama and emotion and raw intensity over what it means to be a police officer in 2020. The George Floyd death hurt. It hurt the country. It tore the country apart. People took to the streets. People rioted and looted while the media gave rioters and looters cover by calling those peaceful protests. But many, many, many more people did peacefully protest the death of a man who we witnessed in a 9-minute video under the knee of a police officer. But of course, the left's version of policing is to reimagine it all. We can have social workers. We can have social workers.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
India today, in my understanding, has voter ID for every single Indian citizen. But we don't in America. Are we being overtaken by countries like India? Is the putative announcement of Vice President Biden as quote-unquote president-elect, does that mean that we will be condemned to slipping further behind other nations whose people have wanted to come here like your parents did, Dinesh?
I mean, it's kind of funny, Seb, but we might reach a point soon where we will need election observers from countries like India to ratify that the American electoral process is legitimate. I never thought I would see a time when not only would the media ignore huge stories,
Okay, everybody, I'm Dennis Prager, and we will go to the press conference given now by Live with Rudy Giuliani.
Election machine, did they forget that many people with bad memories in Pittsburgh? Or is the following correct? That as witnesses will testify, they were instructed by the Democrat bosses when they had a ballot in which there was no one registered, just assign it to somebody. Just assign it to Rudy Giuliani. So when Rudy Giuliani, and maybe Rudy Giuliani won't show up to vote. And if he does show up to vote, we'll give him a provisional ballot. That is what we call circumstantial evidence of the fraud. The direct evidence of the fraud are the people who will testify that in fact that's what happened to them. As well as the 50 to 60 witnesses we have for the way they were treated and not allowed to inspect the ballots. They weren't just not allowed to do it, they were pushed. A few cases they were assaulted. In all cases they were put in a corral so far away, probably the closest they got is from here to the back of that room. We could do like a, did you all watch My Cousin Vinny? You know the movie? It's one of my favorite law movies because he comes from Brooklyn. And when the nice lady who said she saw, and then he says to her, how many fingers do I got up? And she says, 3. Well, she was too far away to see it was only 2. These people were further away than my cousin Vinny was from the witness. They couldn't see a thing. Now, I don't know, you're going to tell me that 60 people are lying? They didn't just tell me this. They swore under penalty of perjury, which is something no Democrat's ever done. You don't even ask Biden about this. You don't put him under penalty of perjury. He doesn't even get asked questions about it. He doesn't get asked questions about all the evidence of the crimes that he committed. These people are under penalty of perjury. Their names are on an affidavit. They swear that they weren't allowed to carry out their function as inspectors. And it's not just a technical thing. There's a reason they did it. Why would you not allow people to carry out the function they've been allowed to do for 50 years, 60 years? Why wouldn't you allow inspections of those ballots? Because you knew you were going to use those ballots to catch Biden up. And you had a big road ahead of you. You had to catch him up for 700,000 to 800,000 votes that he was behind. And the only way you were going to do it was with the mail-in ballots. You couldn't have a Democrat and Republican inspector around. They don't even have Democrats watching it because they'd be afraid that there'd be honest Democrats who would say, you're cheating. So that takes us to Michigan, where there was an honest Democrat who said they were cheating. And we'll show you her affidavit, because I know you keep reporting falsely that we have no evidence, that we have no specific acts of fraud. That's because the coverage of this has been almost as dishonest as the scheme itself. The American people are entitled to know this. You don't have a right to keep it from them. You don't have a right to lie about it. And you are. I mean, you don't report to them that a citizen of this country, a very fine woman, who is willing to allow me to give you her name. And I can't give you all these affidavits because if I do, these people will be harassed, they'll be threatened, they may lose their job, they will lose their friends. We've lost lawyers in this case because they've been threatened. We've had lawyers that need protection. What's going on in this country is horrible, and the censorship that you're imposing is making it worse. But Jessie Jacob is an adult citizen and a resident of the state of Michigan. She's been an employee of the city of Detroit for decades. I know her age, but she can tell you her age. She was assigned to voting duties in September. and she was trained by the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan. She was basically trained to cheat. She said that I was instructed by my supervisor to adjust the mailing date of these absentee ballot packages to be dated earlier than when they were actually sent in. The supervisor made that announcement for all.
All right, you get the idea here, and it's the question. There are so many questions. There are just so many questions, and my commitment to truth is greater than my commitment to the president winning, because without truth, society is over. That's been my position all of my life. So all I have are questions right now. I make no assertions, but the attack on asking questions means that there are vast numbers of people who don't want truth. Questions are questions. There are questions about the makers of Dominion and the use of this voting system, which I'm not asserting the following truths. I am going to be looking into it. Used in other countries. Tallies that Dominion have might be tallied in other countries. These are questions I have. Do the people who run Dominion have a political agenda? I believe that voting should be done on the level of each voting place with physical ballots. That's the only thing that cannot, or well, maybe it can, but is much less likely to be corrupted. Everybody should be for honest elections, left or right. It would be one of the 3 out of 10,000 areas that they could theoretically agree on. As I've said, the gulf, ideological, moral, rational gulf between left and right is unbridgeable, and ironically, that's something the left would agree with. There you go. We just have a different take on which side is the more rational and the more moral. But we agree about the unbridgeability. How come whenever they find errors, all of my life, whenever they found errors, 99% of the time they ran against the Republican? By the way, do you know the Al Franken case, which I do make an assertion. I believe he was not elected and he was cheated into office in Minnesota. That made the difference for the Obamacare. Had that been an honest election, there would have been no Obamacare. Everyone I know has been adversely affected by Obamacare. I'm not saying that nobody benefited. I'm just telling you, on one human level, every single individual I know who has been affected by Obamacare has been affected adversely. It's something the New York Times does not report, needless to say.
The Dennis Prager Show. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Folks, the new guy on Joe Biden's task force is named Dr. Michael Osterholm. He recommends a 4 to 6 week nationwide lockdown.
We could pay for a package right now to cover all of the wages, lost wages for individual workers, for losses to small companies, to medium-sized companies, for cities, states, county governments. We could do all of that. If we did that, then we could lock down for 4 to 6 weeks. And if we did that, we could drive the numbers down like they've done in Asia, like they did in New Zealand and Australia.
Okay. Man is recommending a 4 to 6 week nationwide lockdown, right? Here's what Dr. Fauci said about that.
You know, I don't know. We would like to stay away from that, Robin, because there is no appetite for locking down.
Hold on. Wait. Did you just hear what I heard? Let me just play it again.
You know, I don't know. We would like to stay away from that, Robin, because there is no appetite for locking down.
Did he just say there's no appetite for locking down? But, I thought it was all about following the science. Are you telling me you're taking into consideration public opinion the way Trump has? How people feel about it? whether they feel it's worth it, whether they feel the benefits outweigh the cost being possible bankruptcy, certainly financial insecurity, divorce, depression, suicide, drug abuse. Have I left anything out? Binge watching I Love Lucy? I don't know. You tell me.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
The mainstream media, as we've talked before, is trying to use this term widespread fraud to move the goalposts and to basically say this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter. Biden is the president-elect, we've coronated him, that's the end of the story. But even more than that, when you have this much of intentional malfeasance and you have this much intentional criminal activity, this is really a disenfranchisement of the entire nation. And so this isn't just about those specific votes that were manipulated. This is about leaving open this electronic activity for this type of fraud on purpose. And I posted a link on my Twitter page. I might encourage everybody, follow me, follow Team Trump, of course, follow the president on Twitter, but I posted a link to a report just from last year in 2019 from the state of Texas, who refused to certify Dominion voting systems because they found that it was too open to this kind of user abuse, and it had portals that were open for USB, for other online activity, that it was too open to fraud. And so on the Texas Secretary of State website, there's this 4-page document where an assistant attorney general in Texas says, I recommend that we don't use this because it's too open to manipulation and fraud.
Okay, so Texas said, this is fishy, we don't want to use these machines, but these machines were used in how many states?
Right now, we're looking at, upwards of possibly 38 states.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
I truly believe that Georgia is a state that will be intently focused on law and order. So when you know that if the Democrats control the entire government, we will be facing a sea change of law of
is telling the press how corrupt they are, which is true. If everything were switched, do you realize? Imagine if over 200 people working in Michigan voting signed sworn affidavits that there was corruption on behalf of the Republican candidate for president. You think the press would be silent? It would be the greatest, most dominant issue of our time, as the Russian collusion lie was. The press is a vehicle of the left. It has nothing more than that. That is all it is. We're in trouble. I'm sorry to say it. I really am. You know, I am a happy human being. I'm not a conspiracy enthusiast, but we are in deep trouble. The left ruins everything it touches, and that will include the United States of America. Certainly if they get the Senate. That is how important the Georgian runoff elections are. Over 200 people have sworn affidavits. I mean, if that is not true, you can be held liable for perjury. Back to Rudy Giuliani.
This happened in Pennsylvania. It happened in Michigan. Michigan probably right now, if I count up the affidavits, just one case alone, Trump v. Benson, a case that we dismissed today because that case was attempting to get the Wayne County Board of Supervisors to decertify. Well, they did. They decertified. That case has 100 affidavits. And the 100 affidavits show essentially what I've talked to you about. Counting ballots improperly, counting them 3 and 4 times, having people vote 3 and 4 times, changing and backdating ballots to the point of at least 300,000 illegitimate ballots that we can specifically identify. The margin in Michigan was 146,121, and these ballots were all cast basically in Detroit that Biden won 80-20. So you see a change as a result of the election in Michigan, if you take out Wayne County. So it's a very significant case. That is being raised in the case of Costantino versus the city of Detroit. Not by us, but by an individual plaintiff. We are helping and assisting in that case, however. And you can find all the affidavits that you want filed in that case. And you can find out they're not just allegations, they're allegations supported by sworn testimony, which is a lot better than Joe Biden has ever done on anything. He doesn't answer questions, much less give you sworn affidavits. Wisconsin had a very small margin, 20,544 last time I looked. In Wisconsin, without going into great detail, very similar plan. Republicans shut out in the city of Milwaukee and also in Madison. Republicans almost uniformly shut out from the absentee process, not allowed to inspect, not allowed to look at the ballots. We have in Milwaukee and in the state of Wisconsin a much stricter law. Wisconsin doesn't allow mail-in ballots. They didn't buy into the big mail-in ballot situation. Wisconsin, when you look at their constitution, almost seems to not like absentee ballots. They state it's not a right, a privilege. And they have very, very strict procedures. And the strict procedure says that you can't be given an absentee ballot. You have to personally apply for it. It's illegal, basically, to solicit a vote. And they have actually many reasons for it. That probably goes back to their progressive days. When I say progressive, I mean late 19th century, early 20th century progressive, when that really meant progressive, not retrogressive. So there are 60,000 ballots in Milwaukee County and 40,000 ballots in Madison that, as far as we can tell, and this is why we're auditing, because we have very good information, the numbers are going to come out about here, that don't have applications. Under the law of the state of Wisconsin, already decided, if there's no application for an absentee ballot, the absentee ballot is thrown away. This all happened in 2 places in Wisconsin. Didn't happen in northern Wisconsin. Didn't happen in Republican Wisconsin. Didn't happen in neutral Wisconsin, where there are an equal number of Republicans and Democrats. It happened in a place where the vote was 75, 80% for the Democrat. You take away any number of those.
All right, we will continue with Rudy Giuliani. What is illegitimate about what he said? It doesn't mean the election results are wrong. But is it not worthy of honest people asking questions? No. That's the position of the entire left, which means the media. Ladies and gentlemen, I urge you, if you have any form of joint or muscle pain, to simply try Relief Factor. It is so good, so effective, that it works within 3 weeks. If it doesn't work within 3 weeks, it probably doesn't work. So try it for 3 weeks at the 3-week quick start price of $19.95 at relieffactor.com, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I don't know who these people are, but they are true Americans. I've never met them, but I want to meet them because they have courage. They have a spine. They are made of the same substance as our 45th president, Donald John Trump. And we need more of them. I want to see dozens, hundreds of letters like this across the nation calling on local state secretaries, chief clerks, to not certify those elections until every single allegation is investigated. Because that's the American way. Let's post that letter on our Twitter and Facebook pages. I have to tell you what Instagram did to me this morning. Truly, truly, we are living in unprecedented times.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Will you oppose, as long you are Secretary of State and long into the future, normalizing the Iranian regime?
Of course. The right time to normalize with Iran is when the regime complies with the basic set of rules and behaviors that we expect of every nation. Today, they continue to build out their missile program, to extend their capacity to wreak terror across the world. They continue to behave in ways that are inconsistent with the commitments even that they made under the JCPOA itself. As crazy as that was, this is a theocracy, a kleptocracy. They have destroyed so much wealth and basic prosperity for the Iranian people themselves, who we've supported for 4 years now. This is a crazy idea to think that you're going to get back into a deal that permitted a clean pathway for the Iranians to have a nuclear weapon by which they could terrorize the entire world.
So many people who have spent 4 years demonizing President Trump, and a lot of that demonizing you, will not say a bad word against the Iranian regime. Now, I know you think about international relations a lot. What is that? Why can they not come to grips? Have you thought about what it is in the American psyche on the left that will not let them denounce a cruel, barbaric regime?
One might add anti-Semitic, and one that continues to put at risk the basic understandings that we've built out over 4 years throughout the Middle East. No, I can't comprehend it. I couldn't comprehend it when the Obama-Biden administration before went for the JCPOA and made Iran the linchpin of their foreign policy in the Middle East. But going back to it just be crazy.
I need to remind you that this is a particularly good time to look into your mortgage payment. And if you're interested in a refi, a new purchase, a cash-out refi, or a reverse mortgage, these guys that I've come to admire, Andrew and Todd at Sierra Pacific Mortgage, have been advertising on the show from the day the lockdown began. They did not stop helping people with their mortgage payments and getting a better deal in their interest rate. So I would go to andrewandtodd.com if any of those things are of interest to you. Cash out, refi, new purchase, reverse mortgage. andrewandtodd.com, or just call 888-1172, no obligations. And we return to Rudy Giuliani's conclusion.
We're going to put Republican inspectors in pens. We're not going to let them look at mail-in or absentee ballots. They all independently come up with that. Like, just by coincidence. They say, hey, you know, we're going to put the Republicans in pens and corrals. We're going to do it in Pittsburgh. We're going to do it in Philadelphia. We're going to do it in Detroit. We're going to do it in Milwaukee. We're going to do it in Las Vegas. We're going to do it in Phoenix. What did I miss? Oh, we're going to do it in Atlanta. Or isn't the logical conclusion that I think any jury would accept after they heard this evidence that somebody had this plan? Maybe that was always the plan, to do this very, very questionable form of voting, which has been criticized by President Carter, by Secretary Baker, by most experts on election reform. I think the logical conclusion is this is a common plan, a common scheme. It comes right directly from the Democrat Party, and it comes from the candidate. Clearly. That's the reason why Hillary Clinton said, don't concede, even if you're losing. That's the reason we had a Freudian slip by the candidate. And he said he had the best voter fraud team in the country. That's the reason why he probably didn't have to go out and campaign. He had to have known what they were going to do. This had to be planned in advance. I'm kind of checking, did they go, to the same contractor to get the corrals to put the Republicans in? And this is a disgraceful thing that was done in this country. Probably not much more disgraceful than the things these people did in office, which you didn't and don't bother to cover and you conceal from the American people. But we let this happen. We use largely a Venezuelan voting machine, in essence, to count our vote. We let this happen, we're going to become Venezuela. We cannot let this happen to us. We cannot allow these crooks, because that's what they are, to steal an election from the American people. They elected Donald Trump. They didn't elect Joe Biden. Joe Biden is in the lead because of the fraudulent ballots, the illegal ballots that were produced and that were allowed to be used after the election was over. Give us an opportunity to prove it in court, and we will. Now I'm going to ask Sidney Powell to describe to you what we can describe about another totally outrageous situation. I don't think most Americans know that our ballots get calculated, many of them outside the United States, and are completely open to hacking, completely open to change, and it's being done by a company that specializes in voter fraud. I'll let Sidney describe that to you.
Thank you, Rudy. What we are really dealing with here and uncovering more by the day is the massive influence of communist money through Venezuela, Cuba, and likely China in the interference with our elections here in the United States. The Dominion voting systems, the Smartmatic technology software, and the software that goes in other computerized voting systems here as well, not just Dominion, were created in Venezuela at the direction of Hugo Chavez to make sure he never lost an election after one constitutional referendum came out the way he did not want it to come out. We have one very strong witness who has explained how it all works. His affidavit is attached to the pleadings of Lynn Wood in the lawsuit he filed in Georgia. It is a stunning, detailed affidavit because he was with Hugo Chavez while he was being briefed on how it worked. He was with Hugo Chavez when he saw it operate to make sure the election came out his way. That was the express purpose for creating this software. He has seen it operate, and as soon as he saw the multiple states shut down the voting on the night of the election, he knew the same thing was happening here, that was what had gone on. Now, the software itself was created with so many variables and so many back doors that can be hooked up to the internet.
All right, let me take a challenge on this because it's important. 1-8-Prager-776 in Los Angeles. Joe. Hello, Joe. Dennis Prager.
Hey, Mr. Prager. How are you?
Okay, thank you.
I'm just having a hard time understanding why you're giving so much attention to these baseless accusations of widespread fraud in Democratic-run cities like Philadelphia, Detroit, Milwaukee, when the data shows us that there's no evidence of such fraud. Why focus on it? Why did you just play Rudy for the last, 30 minutes?
Listen, this may come as a surprise to you. I wish you were right. I give you my word of honor from the depths of my soul. I wish there was no reason to assume that there was widespread cheating. I have not said that it would make a difference in the election. I have never said that Biden didn't win. I am asking questions about the honesty of the election.
No, and I understand that because I listen to your show, even though I often don't agree with you. And compared to many of your colleagues like Sebastian Gorka and so on, you don't seem to be peddling this stuff. But then you just decided to play Rudy with no sort of checking on what he's.
Okay, I don't know why I wouldn't play Rudy. We'll be back.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
My guest book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. He is Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. Dr. Donald Trump recovered pretty quickly from the time that he announced that he had contracted the coronavirus. Were you surprised he bounced back so fast?
I wasn't, for a couple reasons. Number one, he was treated early with mild symptoms. Although they took him to the hospital, it probably wasn't necessary. Also, although I don't know this, I believe he was already on hydroxychloroquine, which reduces viral replication. In addition, he was on multiple supplements that work really well, and that includes things like zinc, melatonin, and vitamin C. And so I wasn't surprised, and he had world-class therapeutics at his disposal, and I think anybody would recover quickly if they're treated early with mild symptoms.
Doctor, why is hydroxychloroquine so controversial?
Because Donald Trump, way back in the day, during his press conference, made mention of it, and it's very cheap, and it's generic, and they hate Donald Trump. So immediately that drug became political to the point that pharmacies were refusing to dispense it when I'd write a prescription, and other doctors as well. And the Medical Board of California came out with a statement that said prescribing hydroxychloroquine could subject a physician to unprofessional conduct. Never in the history of my career has the Medical Board put out such a statement, especially with a drug that is not controlled, meaning it's easy to write for. You don't need a special prescription. It's been around for 65 years, and it's available over the counter in many countries, but not ours.
Keep up with what's trending.
Okay, everybody, Dennis Prager here. It is an amazing thing that people dismiss out of hand over 200 people swearing on an affidavit that there was cheating, and covering it is wrong. It shouldn't be covered. That was the thesis. I would continue with the last caller, but he hung up. And I wonder if these people thought that the press was irresponsible for covering the rape lines that Brett Kavanaugh was supposedly a part of, standing waiting to rape the same woman, or a series of men doing this at school. Was that coverage responsible? So did we have sworn affidavits to that? No. Those of you who rely on the regular media have a distorted view of the world, a completely distorted view. Was there any basis for 3 years of wall-to-wall coverage that the Russians had colluded with the Trump campaign in the last election, in the 2016 election, I should say? No. Did you object? Was the press coverage, saturated coverage of that, responsible? But to even cover a Rudy Giuliani press conference depicting alleged facts, sworn facts, people could go to jail if they are not telling the truth. That we shouldn't do. The data show. I love that. What is the other favorite word now? Where something has been undermined. What is the word that they use? You constantly hear this word. Whenever a claim is made by the right, it's been, oh God, overturned or dismissed. What is a synonym for that? Anyway, it's a word that is constantly used. Like, nothing that we say has merit. Not even the merit of coverage. Did the New York Times, did it bother my last caller that the New York Times hasn't covered the Great Barrington Statement? Declaration? What is it now? Is approaching 1,000 scientists? Oh, it's 50,000? Yeah, I know. I saw it last night, and I remember the number. I know that hundreds of thousands of non-doctors, so 50,000 doctors and other scientists who claim the lockdowns are completely destructive. Anybody who watches NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, or read the New York Times even know that? But I'm not supposed to cover this.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Biden. If Susan Rice is nominated to be the Secretary of State, will you vote yes, no, or have you not made up your mind?
Well, yeah, it's not fair for me to make a pronouncement like that. Here's the bottom line. Joe Biden is going to nominate people to positions. If he takes office, he'll nominate people to positions that, frankly, I would never nominate if I were president, and I wouldn't support if I had my choice. But I do believe presidents deserve some deference in who they nominate. Now, obviously, there are things that could be disqualifying. And so let me just say, I'm not going to make broad pronouncements about someone like Susan Rice, who I've limited interaction with. I will certainly the president will deserve some deference in that regard. But I want to know more about what it is she intends to do as Secretary of State on some key issues around the world and so forth, and look at a record. There are others that I can tell you, frankly, with no disrespect to them on a personal level, but I could never support, and I don't dislike Bernie Sanders, by the way. I actually think I admire the fact that he's pretty honest and transparent, that he's a socialist and has been so for a long time, although I strongly disagree with what he stands for, but I would never want him to see him as Secretary of Labor. I've actually done bills with Elizabeth Warren on things that are good for the country that we agree on, but I'd never want her to see her running Treasury or anything of that nature. So there are people I can tell you right now I would never support that.
How about Senator Angus King, who's tipped for the Director of National Intelligence?
Well, I told Angus that I'm going to easily sink his nomination by just saying he reminds me of John Bolton because of the mustache and the white hair. But Angus is a member of the Intelligence Committee. I've always found him to be involved, serious, works hard, asks the right questions. It's an important job.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Now, mind you, while the chattering class is now calling for a cancellation of Thanksgiving, they're calling out for pseudo-Gestapo squads to go out to arrest people that are gathering on Thanksgiving. California lawmakers head to Maui with lobbyists despite pandemic and travel warnings. This is from Politico. They did a nice work of journalism here by Katie Murphy. Roughly 100 people from 4 states converged at Fairmont, Kealani, for a 4-day legislative conference organized by the Independent Voter Project. The 18th annual event was a third of its regular size, but it drew 20 lawmakers from California, Texas, and Washington state. The theme, how to reopen state economies amid the public health crisis. So it's okay to go travel to Hawaii, probably on taxpayer dime, with lobbyists, but somehow at the same time we must cancel Thanksgiving. All the while, we have Governor Mussolini. I say that kiddingly. Media matters, okay? Half kiddingly, all right? Governor Mussolini was found in Napa Valley at French Laundry, no social distancing, no masks, well over the declared edict of not allowing people to have tables of over 5 to 6 people. And let's pull this picture up on screen. Looks like Governor Newsom on screen here, who he said he was outdoors. He obviously wasn't. He was with 12 people with looks like very, very expensive glasses of wine. I mean, if I could just look at a picture of what the American ruling class is, it's this picture.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Sean Hannity put it best last night on Fox News. What the hell is happening in Georgia? Once again, almost 3,000 uncounted votes in Georgia discovered, which of course immediately makes one worry about the hugely important Senate runoffs that are coming up January 5th, with Republicans David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler squaring off against the radical Democrats who want to be part of the reason that the Democrats control the entire U.S. government. Here was Sean last night.
Now, breaking moments ago, the state of Georgia's hand recount magically, how many days after Election Day, uncovered yet another 2,700 uncounted ballots, the majority of which, shockingly cast for President Trump. Last night, same story, another 2,600 uncounted ballots were discovered, and again, most of those ballots in favor of the president. What the hell's happening in Georgia and in our country? You know, why are we still finding thousands of ballots weeks after the election?
Well, it's happening because this election is a mess, and everybody knows it's a mess, from the pollsters and the pundits who predicted that Biden would crush Donald Trump, to all of the victories for Republicans down ballot. And make no mistake, Republicans crushed it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. I welcome you to the show. According to half this country and 99% of its mainstream media, the word that I was looking for is applicable here. This is the word that is used all the time, debunked. I want to thank Mike Armstrong for that insight. He remembered it. Debunked. That's what it is. It's been debunked. If the left doesn't agree with something, it is not a disagreement. It's the other side has been debunked. It's odd that they never debate. Just don't debate. I don't blame them. I don't blame them for not wanting 5 minutes of a PragerU video at a high school. 5 minutes. Give us 5 minutes, we'll undo a semester. That would be the new motto of PragerU. The first motto was give us 5 minutes, we'll give you a semester. And then we said we teach what isn't taught. That's the current motto. But I think we should have two mottos. Give us 5 minutes, we'll undo a semester. You agree? I think it's good. It's very important. That's all it takes. Truth is unbelievably powerful. Logic is unbelievably powerful. There's a petition at Harvard not to have anyone who worked in the Trump administration even be allowed to be a student. I know young people who have been in the Trump-Pence administration. So they can't even be a student. They can't teach there. They can't speak there. There's a petition at Harvard. Do you hear me? Harvard, the first university in the country to close down because of COVID. A dubious honor, I might add. But that's the petition that is going around. Esquire magazine has an article about how anyone affiliated with the Trump administration should be tried for criminal activity. But if you said that about any of the Clintons, who are truly criminals in my opinion, and I have not called for them to be tried as criminals by the Trump administration, but I do believe that they are, that has not yet been debunked. When we start having that, it's a bad precedent. You start arresting the people in the previous administration. But we're getting closer and closer. The left wants us to be like Venezuela. That's why they love Fidel Castro. People don't take the left seriously. They laud Castro, they lauded Chavez, and then they think, if you lauded them, why wouldn't we want that to be something applicable to the United States? Right? If Chavez is good for Venezuela and Castro is good for Cuba, why wouldn't a Chavez or a Castro be good for America? Unless these people have utter contempt for Latin Americans. You can have your left-wing corrupt dictators, but we don't want that. No, of course not. We want left-wing dictators too. That's the position of the left in America. Liberals don't want it, but they vote for it. I distinguish between liberalism. Liberalism has nothing in common with leftism. I have example after example in my 5-minute talk at PragerU or in an article I wrote. Take 5 minutes to read. Either way, it's not a massive investment of time. Liberalism has nothing in common with leftism. Like the free speech issue, liberals have always been for free speech. The left has never been for free speech in the history of the left of the world. They squash dissent to the best of their ability. And that, my friends, has not been debunked. So, according to the press, the charges of any corruption in the vote, whether or not they would lead to a reverse decision, which I don't claim they would. I don't know. I'm agnostic. Because I told you, it's been my motto for 35 years. First tell the truth, then give your opinion. So I don't know. But I do know that it is worthy of investigation. If 250 or 240 people swear at the risk of perjury that they have seen corruption in the voting process just in Michigan. And it's just in one area of Michigan. Is that unworthy of coverage? But it was worthy of coverage, what Brett Kavanaugh allegedly did in high school? Or at Yale? That was worthy of saturated coverage? The alleged collusion of the Trump campaign in 2016 with Russia, that was worth it? That was worth all the coverage? Now they're taking questions? Good, let's hear.
Races to have the U.S. District Court judges and federal authorities monitoring elections.
I can't say what's going to be done about...
In every county, we have sort of a Operation Gray Lord.
I'm sorry, in what county?
County, Pennsylvania,
yes.
Atlanta, there's sort of an Operation Gray Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you were informed of that.
I know about it. I really can't give you an opinion on that. I think, obviously, every election official should learn something from this and be very, very careful with the next election. I know this is a lot of information that we've given you, probably because we're frustrated with what we keep reading and hearing in the censored press, which is that we have no evidence, we have no specifics, we have no backup for what we're saying, and you largely ignore the affidavits that are filed. Whether you agree or disagree with an affidavit, it's evidence.
That's right.
You can't say, you're just lying to the American people when you say there's no evidence.
That's right.
Sidney was giving you information that come from affidavits from other people that are given under oath. I was explaining things to you from affidavits that come from other people, American citizens, who swear under oath that they saw 100,000 ballots come in and that they were all for Joe Biden, and that I should point out, now that Sidney has spoken, that those happened just around the time that the Dominion or Smartmatic people called a halt to the election. And then you can also trace it with a very big spike in the vote count at exactly that time. Right up. So what we're telling you is supported by evidence. And we're going to have to present these because of the procedures that exist according to the different voting laws of the different states. For example, you asked us about Wisconsin. We have to first create a contest in Wisconsin before we can move to bringing a fulsome federal lawsuit. The contest, from everything I can see, is going to overturn the vote because it's going to show somewhere around 100,000 illegal ballots in 2 counties that Biden carried by 75, 80%. And you know how close Wisconsin is. And what I'm talking about is the absentee ballots for which there were no applications. And that's not just a small matter. The reason for the application and the reason to keep all these things together is precisely to avoid what the Democrats did in this election, which is to misuse the absentee ballot process and the mail-in ballot process in order to cheat. So they really cheated in 2 respects. They cheated with the machines. Instead of asking me, are we going to bring a lawsuit in Wisconsin, which we will if we have to, you should have asked me, and you should be more astounded by the fact that our votes are counted in Germany and in Spain.
You hear that, folks? You hear
by
this?
A company owned by affiliates of Chavez and Maduro. Did you ever believe that was true? Did any of you here believe?
Right. Has this been debunked, folks? Has this been debunked?
Of course it's not. Of course it shouldn't be possible. I don't know if we're going to have time to develop all that in time to fill the requirements of all these cases. We have enough evidence without that to overturn this election. We have it from the affidavits of American citizens. But that's a matter of national security that we're talking about now. Very, very serious matter of national security. Please don't make light of it.
They will.
And don't act like you knew it.
It's debunked.
Don't act like it isn't a surprise. If that's not a headline tomorrow, then you don't know what a headline is. There isn't a single person in this country that would
Headline is Giuliani is
that
nuts.
we have states
That's
that
the
are
headline.
stupid enough to have our vote sent out of this country.
That's right. Back in a moment. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
My guest book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. He is Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. Dr. Donald Trump recovered pretty quickly from the time that he announced that he had contracted the coronavirus. Were you surprised he bounced back so fast?
I wasn't, for a couple reasons. Number one, he was treated early with mild symptoms. Although they took him to the hospital, it probably wasn't necessary. Also, although I don't know this, I believe he was already on hydroxychloroquine, which reduces viral replication. In addition, he was on multiple supplements that work really well, and that includes things like zinc, melatonin, and vitamin C. And so I wasn't surprised, and he had world-class therapeutics at his disposal, and I think anybody would recover quickly if they're treated early with mild symptoms.
Doctor, why is hydroxychloroquine so controversial?
Because Donald Trump, way back in the day, during his press conference, made mention of it, and it's very cheap, and it's generic, and they hate Donald Trump. So immediately that drug became political to the point that pharmacies were refusing to dispense it when I'd write a prescription, and other doctors as well. And the Medical Board of California came out with a statement that said prescribing hydroxychloroquine could subject a physician to unprofessional conduct. Never in the history of my career has the Medical Board put out such a statement, especially with a drug that is not controlled, meaning it's easy to write for. You don't need a special prescription. It's been around for 65 years, and it's available over the counter in many countries, but not ours.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Let's go to a true expert in the field. His friends call him Fredo, and he's not happy with another medical professional called Dr. Atlas. And the question at hand is Thanksgiving. This is cut 7. I think Fredo's taken too many steroids. Play cut.
What the hell are you doing here? Yeah, it could be their last Thanksgiving. If you expose them to people who aren't wearing masks, who aren't socially distancing, and haven't been doing so, and haven't gotten tested, because they somehow think they don't want to get in on the con of COVID. You know, you want to hide on state news, you do it. But someday, you're going to have to deal with real questions. And either you're going to come on a show or you're going to do it, but you know what? We may go back to old school. And maybe the questions will come find you. Maybe when you're living your life nice and easy, because you don't have the concerns that these same people that you're telling to rise up, that they have. Maybe the questions will come and find you, because you have to answer for that kind of guidance, let alone it's a doctor.
Hello, my friends. I'm Dennis Prager. Rudy Giuliani and other lawyers are taking questions from the press right now. I rarely cover these things, but what he has come out with is so devastating, like votes counted in other countries, American votes. If that's not debunked, then we have a lot of problems with our voting system. Can you return to the press conference?
Where they've been. I don't know where they were on the hard drive. They got it 10 months ago. There are clear crimes revealed on it. Didn't do anything with that. I don't know where they are now. Our country has had its ballots counted, calculated, and manipulated in a foreign country with a company controlled by friends of an enemy of the United States. What do we have to do to get the FBI to wake up? Maybe we need a new agency to protect us. I have no idea.
If I may speak for just a minute, in terms of the level of corruption we are looking at here, we have no idea how many Republican or Democratic candidates in any state across the country paid to have the system rigged to work for them. These people didn't do this just to take control. They make one heck of a lot of money off of it. Think about the global interests behind your own news organizations. Think about the pressure being brought to bear from the social media companies to shut down free speech on any challenge to the election. This is a massive, well-funded, coordinated effort to deprive we the people of the United States of our most fundamental right under the Constitution to preserve this republic that we all cherish. It is of the greatest concern. It is the 1775 of our generation and beyond.
Sydney,
yes.
Of our votes being held and processed, tabulated overseas, there's reports that there was a piece of hardware, probably a server, picked up in Germany. Is that true, and is it related to this?
That is true. It is somehow related to this, but I do not know whether good guys got it or bad guys got
So
it.
we don't know who picked it up.
Why are you not requesting a recount in Wisconsin where the counties that use Dominion systems?
I can only hear one person at the time.
I'm with her. I can only hear one at a time.
Just the news.
Yes.
So question for you, Sydney. First, on the issue of the machines, do you plan to have, are you seeking a court order to either seize or subpoena or just to gain access to any of these machines in any of these contested districts? Have you begun that process? And when can we expect a timeline on that? And then for you, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned in Wisconsin and in Michigan these issues of overvoting. Where can we learn more about this? You're saying 150, 200%?
Up to 350% in some places.
Where would we get access to that data? And then to what extent were those people who showed up to vote in person? Because in Michigan, for example, they did allow same-day registration.
Yes, well, the same-day registration causes problems with the vote signature and the registration itself. That's a whole different system that makes it impossible really to validate the signature. I mean, one person could sign the same name. I could sign John Smith, I could sign Kay Smith, I could sign, on both things and run 50 ballots that way. And we've got some evidence of that being done as well. Rudy, do you want to speak to the other part of it?
Sure. We have now 3 overvote analyses done. One for Pennsylvania, one for Michigan, and one for Wisconsin. We're in the process, Georgia. We're in the process of doing the others. I'll check to see if it's appropriate for us to make it public.
Well,
I imagine it is, but you could actually do it.
Yeah.
You could do it yourself.
A lot of the analysis comes from the real-time data that came through to the news medias the night and following the election. And some entrepreneurs out there have started crunching data themselves in addition to multiple experts who could easily recognize with the mathematical brain that I do not have the beyond inexplicable deviations to the point of mathematical impossibility that 186,000 votes come in at once, all for Joe Biden. That's like flipping a coin 186,000 times and it lands on heads every time. That does not happen. There is no reasonable explanation for the upshoots, the straight lines up. I'm not even talking about an angle. I'm talking about some massive straight lines up in the vote tallies in the middle of the night after they've supposedly stopped counting. And that's when the Dominion operators went in and injected votes and changed the whole system. And it affects votes around the country, around the world, and all kinds of massive interests of globalist dictators, corporations, you name it. Everybody's against us except President Trump and we the people of the United States of America.
You've spoken of unleashing the Kraken. Is the country ready for this? I mean, Americans should be astonished at what you're saying here today. Is the country on the verge of an electoral breakdown?
We've already had it. We have already had that electoral breakdown. But the Constitution, as Jenna explains, has provisions in it for how you fix this.
All right. You know what? I'm wondering how many mainstream press people are even at this.
That's a great question.
It doesn't sound like they're there because the questions are not particularly hostile. So it's not worthy of coverage.
Well, your guy called in.
But what is worthy of coverage, of course, was Brett Kavanaugh's high school allegations. Worthy of coverage for 3 years was Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. But sworn affidavits of American citizens in the hundreds about fraud in a presidential election, ballots being counted in foreign countries, ownership of some of the electronic tallying software being radically left, or if you don't want that term, radically aligned with one of the candidates, that's not worthy of attention. Julius in Hoboken, I'm not taking your call because the only calls I don't take are those that accuse me of lying. You can accuse me of being wrong. You can call me a fascist if you like. But I will not take a call. I never lie. Never. Is that clear? I may make a mistake, but I never lie. That's so you're not getting on for that reason. I want everybody to know that. I always go to calls that differ with me, some strongly. I go to them first, but I don't lie. So you might as well call and say I molest children. Okay? I'm as close to that as I am to lying. So there are rules of civility on this show that don't apply to every show, but they do to mine. We will return 1-8-PRAGER-776.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
My guest book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. He is Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. Dr. Donald Trump recovered pretty quickly from the time that he announced that he had contracted the coronavirus. Were you surprised he bounced back so fast?
I wasn't for a couple reasons. Number one, he was treated early with mild symptoms. Although they took him to the hospital, it probably wasn't necessary. Also, although I don't know this, I believe he was already on hydroxychloroquine, which reduces viral replication. In addition, he was on multiple supplements that work really well, and that includes things like zinc, melatonin, and vitamin C. And so I wasn't surprised, and he had world-class therapeutics at his disposal, and I think anybody would recover quickly if they're treated early with mild symptoms.
Doctor, why is hydroxychloroquine so controversial?
Because Donald Trump, way back in the day, during his press conference, made mention of it, and it's very cheap, and it's generic, and they hate Donald Trump. So immediately that drug became political to the point that pharmacies were refusing to dispense it when I'd write a prescription, and other doctors as well. And the Medical Board of California came out with a statement that said prescribing hydroxychloroquine could subject a physician to unprofessional conduct. Never in the history of my career has the Medical Board put out such a statement, especially with a drug that is not controlled, meaning it's easy to write for. You don't need a special prescription. It's been around for 65 years, and it's available over the counter in many countries, but not ours.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Let's go to a true expert in the field. His friends call him Fredo, and he's not happy with another medical professional called Dr. Atlas. And the question at hand is Thanksgiving. This is cut 7. I think Fredo's taken too many steroids. Play cut.
What the hell are you doing here? Yeah, it could be their last Thanksgiving. If you expose them to people who aren't wearing masks, who aren't socially distancing, and haven't been doing so, and haven't gotten tested, because they somehow think they don't want to get in on the con of COVID. You know, you want to hide on state news, you do it. But someday, you're going to have to deal with real questions. And either you're going to come on a show or you're going to do it, but you know what? We may go back to old school. And maybe the questions will come find you. Maybe when you're living your life nice and easy, because you don't have the concerns that these same people that you're telling to rise up, that they have. Maybe the questions will come and find you, because you have to answer for that kind of guidance, let alone it's a doctor.
Let me get this straight. Fredo Cuomo
All right, everybody, you're listening to the Dennis Prager Show. The allegations made, including sworn affidavits in the hundreds, that the biggest scandal, there's a bigger scandal than that. The bigger scandal is it's not being covered by the mainstream media. If the shoe were on the other foot, it would be the only issue in the news.
There literally would not be another...
They're propaganda organs. Washington Post, New York Times, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS, PBS, NPR, they're propaganda organs. There is no joy in me to tell you this, none. I wish I could respect them. I wish. They've been poisoned by the left. They published one op-ed piece by Senator Cotton. What's Cotton's first name? Tom Cotton. And the editor of the editorial of the opinion pages of the New York Times was fired. 1 out of 10,000 pieces by a Republican. I would say that's the average. By a Republican who supports the president. I mean, they always have these Republicans who hate the president. That means nothing. And he's fired. This is Pravda in English. That's what has happened. The Pravdaization of mainstream newspapers. Vachagan in Georgia.
Mr. Prager.
Yes.
How are you, sir? This is my second call to you within the last 3 months. As you can see, I'm a loyal listener. I'm politically very active and aware. Again, I will repeat, I'm a first-generation immigrant from former Soviet Union. I'm 56 years old, and all my life I was very active in teaching and learning, and I'm still learning. I just want to share with you these horrible deja vu feelings that I'm having. Back in Soviet Union, we did not believe in justice. Everything was based on who you know and how you know. That feeling kind of diminished throughout years while I was living here in the United States, because I have a religious faith almost into our Constitution. The very first chapters, the Bill of Rights, when it mentions the creation of everything that we are created by, the Creator gave us all our rights. That one thing actually made me think about eventually moving to the United States years ago. That one paragraph. But here I'm seeing me and my family, we talk about it a lot, and just a few minutes ago I was texting back and forth with my sister who lives in Miami, and she also shares with us, I don't believe in justice anymore. This is not about left or right political views. This is about justice. And if I lose, I want to lose fair and square.
Yes. You said something, and I thank you, Vashagam. He said something that is worthy of putting on billboards. That people who have come here from communist countries are experiencing deja vu. That is the most powerful way to express what is happening in the United States of America at this time. And it will exponentially increase if and when there is a Biden victory. And I don't know what will be. Have you ever heard Soviet emigres, Cuban emigres, emigres from Poland, Bulgaria, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, Albania, Vietnam, China say, ever hear it? Ever hear them say, we're experiencing deja vu? No, I haven't. All I heard from the emigres of former communist countries or present communist countries was, oh my God, thank God I'm in free America. Freedom, free, Svoboda. And now I hear deja vu. Deja vu, already seen, literally, from French. That's a scary thing to hear from these people. They are not out of their minds. They have much more sensitive antennae to totalitarianism than American-born people. Riduzone is a product developed by doctors, has 2 patents, 2 U.S. patents. It is the only FDA-accepted product that includes OEA, the molecule our own bodies produce to help us feel full faster, so we burn stored fat. They have a 30-day money-back guarantee. There's nothing you can lose here. Riduzone is exclusively available at riduzone.com, riduzone.com. Use the promo code Dennis to immediately save 30%. That is riduzone.com. The promo code is Dennis. Back in a moment.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
I am talking to Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. The book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. The treatment that President got was obviously Cadillac treatment. Had Joe Schmo contracted the coronavirus around the same time the president did, same age, same comorbidities, would he or she have gotten the same kind of treatment?
No, not for early mild symptoms. So remdesivir, which was one of the treatments that President Trump got, is only available if you're hospitalized. So by definition, those are very sick patients. And that's the wrong time to use it, although certainly it's available and it can be effective. The best time to use any intervention is in the early mild stages. So think of it this way. Imagine if we told a woman who came down with breast cancer just to stay at home and go about their lives and come back only if the breast cancer gets worse or spread. You'd be considered unprofessional and crazy, but yet that's what we're currently doing with COVID.
Tell us about immune systems matter.
Well, they do, yet here we are slathering up in hand sanitizer and every other possible antibacterial, antiviral component. We have robust immune systems that God gave us for a reason, and that's to protect us. So as soon as we stop allowing our immune systems to function by wearing a mask everywhere we go, by slathering ourselves with hand sanitizer and other antimicrobials, we're actually causing problems. We're hurting ourselves. We lock people up in their homes, especially kids. We don't allow them to get exposed to the world. And then when their immune system is finally challenged, they're in a weakened state and they can't mount an immune response the way they should be able to.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So the intimidation, the fear of violence, the increase of violence we have witnessed across America for the last 10 months, that's what should make us happy? That we maybe dodged even more violence? Is that how America was founded? Is that how the Boston Tea Party occurred? That those who try to intimidate us succeed, and we see that as the silver lining? My friend's friend said, well, you know, if he takes the White House, at least now we'll have time that all of these things have been uncovered to fix them. And again, resisting my wife's blandishments to behave, I said, what? The Democrats are going to fix it? If Biden steals the election and he's in the White House, and they have the House of Representatives and potentially the Senate, if they can steal the Georgia runoffs as well, oh, that's when the Democrats fix things? That will be the conclusion they drew, that, oh, we stole this election. So now
hello, my friends. I'm Dennis Prager. It's all summarized by this recent call. Man from the Soviet Union moved here for liberty and is now experiencing deja vu. Everyone who has left a communist country is experiencing deja vu. That's what you need to know. Here's an example of deja vu. Campus Reform Campus Reform reports. LSU professor pledges to drop students who engage in hate speech. So some professors at the Louisiana State University have said that professors should keep lists of students who engage in hate speech. Hate speech is speech that they don't agree with. That's all. That's what hate speech is. Anything that is not left-wing. By the way, the latest is another professor at some other university. If you say that America is not systemically racist, that is like denying the Holocaust. All right? This is what is going on in the United States of America at this time. The left can take it over, and it will end a free speech in this country in the name of fighting hate speech. That's what they always say. The Constitution says that there is free speech. That means that if you consider it hate speech, make your case. Right? But the left has no case. The left only has suppression. Big stuff here. Hamid in San Jose, California. Hello.
Mr. Prager, good morning, sir. Same thing happened in Iran as far as election is concerned, and people made a joke out of it. That is, Iran or America is the most free country. You can vote for anybody, but they take out anybody they run out of the box.
But I'm sorry, but they take out anybody who what?
They take out anybody they want, not the people.
You mean in the elections in Iran? Is that what you're referring to?
Mr. Prager, what I mean by that is, hold on one second. What I mean by that is, you can vote for anybody you want, but the people in charge, they bring out anybody they want.
Yeah, you're right. That's right. That's what they do in Iran. That's exactly right. Or they don't allow you to run to begin with. In America, that would happen this way. Haters cannot run. Anybody can run. It's like anybody, this is the line on the left. Oh, we're for free speech. We're just not for hate speech. And people buy that. It's amazing. We're for free speech except for the speech that we consider hate speech. So then you're not for free speech. I mean, why is that not obvious? Yes, Hamid would also have a deja vu. That's correct. Anyone who has come from a corrupt dictatorship, that is exactly right. Miles in Addison, Illinois. Hello.
Hey, Mr. Prager. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you.
I just wanted to comment about this year's election, and if you don't mind, sir, I have a couple of questions for you after. So, I'm 31 years old, and I live I'm right outside Chicago, Illinois, and I just want to say that just my faith in I'm a veteran. I should put that out there. But just my faith in our elections, and so I've totally lost faith in it, just because of all these irregularities. In 2000, we had one irregularity. It was Florida. In 2020, there's 4, 5, 6 states that have irregularities, and it's a shame, but it just makes me, I don't want to say not vote anymore, but I don't have faith in what the media or what is reported.
Yes, all right. Well, you're not alone. That's the tragedy. Half of this country has lost faith in its primary institutions. That is correct. That's why there is a gradual withdrawal from these institutions taking place in the United States. Half of this country knows that NBC, CBS, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, Times, Post, Washington Post, New York Times, that these have become propaganda organs for the left. That's it. That's it. And they have lost us. We have we have withdrawn. The next thing to withdraw from are the schools. This is even more important. These are your precious children, the legacy of your values. You are sending your children, in most cases, in the vast majority of cases, to places that teach your children the opposite of everything you cherish: liberty, God, the Judeo-Christian value system, tolerance, openness, reason. And you send them there anyway, just on selfish grounds. Forget idealistic grounds, just on selfish grounds. You should rethink that. The pain that I see in parents whose children have contempt for their values. I don't want any of you to endure that. But that's the massive risk when your child goes to a regular American private or public school.
The Dennis Prager Show. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Newt Gingrich said that if the absentee ballot requests and the absentee ballot submissions were done based on previous precedent, President Trump would have won the state by 40,000 votes. Officials in Fayette County unearthed 2,755 ballots that have not been included in the original count. 1,500 of them went for Trump, 1,100 for Biden. So that's a 400 vote gain for President Trump. The audit of votes in the presidential race also revealed missing votes in Walton County. 284 ballots were added from the between precinct. They netted 176 votes for President Trump. And Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's office cited human error and gross negligence in 2,600 missing votes in Floyd County. He called for the Floyd County election manager to resign. And now, a Republican election monitor discovered 9,626 vote error in the DeKalb County hand recount. One batch was labeled 10,707 for Biden and 13 for Trump, an improbable margin even by DeKalb standards, when in reality, the actual count of the batch was 1,081 for Biden and 13 for Trump. To give you an idea, the Biden margin for error in this batch of votes was 99.9%. To give you an idea, Bashar al-Assad, when he ran in 2007, his margin was 97.6%. Raul Castro in 2008, 99.4%. But it did match Kim Jong-il's 2009 margin, 99.9%.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
The situation in each state is a little different. In Arizona, they are simply refusing to have a recount, and that's outrageous. The law says you're only entitled to a mandatory recount if you lost by fewer than 500 votes. And that's designed for dog catcher elections. But for president in a state that casts 3 million votes, you're not going to have a 500 vote margin. In Georgia, they're having a recount, but the inspectors are 40 feet away. There's no way the Republican can see them doing this recount, much less check the ballot.
What is that? What kind of a joke is that? I mean, I don't really even understand.
Democrats being partisan. It's the election.
It's called cheating, Dick. It's called cheating. How do you? How is that possible? How can the lawyers? How can this be possible that they would allow? Well, it's obviously cheating.
I think Trump's people were asleep at the switch and.
Tells her story in the new video from Prager University. See it at prageru.com, where we teach what isn't taught. I'm going to read to you from the New England Journal of Medicine on that subject. A person who's not even a medical doctor wrote a piece in the New England Journal of Medicine defending biological males competing in sports against biological females. The New England Journal of Medicine has been poisoned by the left. I reported that earlier this year. Science is being perverted by the left. How about, remember that? Thousands of scientists said it was okay to demonstrate? That it was okay while telling people to quarantine, but if you were demonstrating against racism, that was okay. I can't tell you how sad it is to report all of this to you. This is my beloved country. And I love it because it has been free. It's been relatively non-corrupt. Relatively means relative to other countries. This is the country France gave the Statue of Liberty to. The man hung up who wanted to know what are we supposed to do. I talk about that every day. You fight or you help the fighters. Helping the fighters is important as fighting, and you get your kids out of schools. That will have a tremendous impact. Getting your kids out of schools. Because then they can't fund the massive left-wing operation known as school. It's a very tough thing to do, or at least it's tough to begin to do. We need, I'm saying this to my producer, we need to have people on to help people understand. They're intimidated, and I would be too, by the notion of homeschooling. And we have to have people explain that it doesn't take up your whole life. Or it can. And it's great if you can do that, but it doesn't have to. Hebrew saying, Masha batuach, batuach. What is certain is certain. What is certain is that sending your kid to a regular elementary, high school, or college is likely to harm their soul, their conscience, their mind. So you have to figure out something else.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Now, mind you, while the chattering class is now calling for a cancellation of Thanksgiving, they're calling out for pseudo-Gestapo squads to go out to arrest people that are gathering on Thanksgiving. California lawmakers head to Maui with lobbyists despite pandemic and travel warnings. This is from Politico. They did a nice work of journalism here by Katie Murphy. Roughly 100 people from 4 states converged at Fairmont, Kealani, for a 4-day legislative conference organized by the Independent Voter Project. The 18th annual event was a third of its regular size, but it drew 20 lawmakers from California, Texas, and Washington state. The theme, how to reopen state economies amid the public health crisis. So it's okay to go travel to Hawaii, probably on taxpayer dime, with lobbyists, but somehow at the same time we must cancel Thanksgiving. All the while, we have Governor Mussolini. I say that kiddingly. Media matters, okay? Half kiddingly, all right? Governor Mussolini was found in Napa Valley at French Laundry, no social distancing, no masks, well over the declared edict of not allowing people to have tables of over 5 to 6 people. And let's pull this picture up on screen. Looks like Governor Newsom on screen here, who he said he was outdoors. He obviously wasn't. He was with 12 people with looks like very, very expensive glasses of wine. I mean, if I could just look at a picture of what the American ruling class is, it's this picture.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Sean Hannity put it best last night on Fox News. What the hell is happening in Georgia? Once again, almost 3,000 uncounted votes in Georgia discovered, which of course immediately makes one worry about the hugely important Senate runoffs that are coming up January 5th, with Republicans David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler squaring off against the radical Democrats who want to be part of the reason that the Democrats control the entire U.S. government. Here was Sean last night.
Now, breaking moments ago, the state of Georgia's hand recount magically, how many days after Election Day, uncovered yet another 2,700 uncounted ballots, the majority of which, shockingly cast for President Trump. Last night, same story, another 2,600 uncounted ballots were discovered, and again, most of those ballots in favor of the president. What the hell's happening in Georgia and in our country? You know, why are we still finding thousands of ballots weeks after the election?
Well, it's happening because this election is a mess, and everybody knows it's a mess. From the pollsters and the pundits who predicted that Biden would crush Donald Trump, to all of the victories for Republicans down ballot. And make no mistake, Republicans crushed it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia," because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
My guest book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. He is Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. Dr. Donald Trump recovered pretty quickly from the time that he announced that he had contracted the coronavirus. Were you surprised he bounced back so fast?
I wasn't, for a couple reasons. Number one, he was treated early with mild symptoms. Although they took him to the hospital, it probably wasn't necessary. Also, although I don't know this, I believe he was already on hydroxychloroquine, which reduces viral replication. In addition, he was on multiple supplements that work really well, and that includes things like zinc, melatonin, and vitamin C. And so I wasn't surprised, and he had world-class therapeutics at his disposal, and I think anybody would recover quickly if they're treated early with mild symptoms.
Doctor, why is hydroxychloroquine so controversial?
Because Donald Trump, way back in the day, during his press conference, made mention of it, and it's very cheap, and it's generic, and they hate Donald Trump. So immediately that drug became political to the point that pharmacies were refusing to dispense it when I'd write a prescription, and other doctors as well. And the Medical Board of California came out with a statement that said prescribing hydroxychloroquine could subject a physician to unprofessional conduct. Never in the history of my career has the medical board put out such a statement, especially with a drug that is not controlled, meaning it's easy to write for. You don't need a special prescription. It's been around for 65 years, and it's available over the counter in many countries, but not ours.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now.
I'm Dennis Prager, devoted 2 hours mostly, not all, but mostly, to the Rudy Giuliani press conference that was only, to the best of my knowledge, broadcast on the cable news networks, at any rate, on Fox News. Fox News, incidentally, has hurt itself. A completely stupid, self-administered wound. Its stock price has gone down for the first time in 20 years. Some of its programs are less viewed than MSNBC because people have gone over to other conservative broadcast networks. And it shot itself in the foot, if not in the heart, with that truly irresponsible, that's the point, it's an irresponsible call on Arizona. While it wouldn't call Florida for the president, it did call Arizona, which was extremely tight. No other network called it. So they beat CNN and MSNBC to the Arizona punch. For what reason? But in general, I think there's a realization that, at least this is my take. I have no proof of this. This is my supposition. The owner, what's his name? The Fox owner, the man who started it, Rupert Murdoch. So he has children. One is quite on the left, and he is no longer in charge. But he has another child who I don't know his politics. But I have, unless you are strong in your commitment to truth and America, what is it? Truth, justice, and the American way, as Superman was, unless you're committed to that very, very seriously, your desire to be accepted in New York City or Washington, D.C. by the elite overrides anything else. In other words, to be committed to truth, justice, and the American way, you have to be prepared to be ostracized by your peers. The people who run the media, who are not committed to truth, justice, or the American way. And that's, most people are not. Most people want to be liked, just as most people value being taken care of more than they value truth. It's a big myth that everyone wants to be free. That's not true. Everyone wants, not everyone, more people want to be taken care of than to be free. And that's it. That's the way it works. That's why human nature, as a rule, stinks. And if you don't battle it, it will take over. It's like the blob. If you don't stop it, it just gets bigger and bigger and swallows up more and more of society. Every human being has to battle his nature to make a good society. How many kids in America in the last 50, 75 years have been taught the biggest project in your life is you? You have to battle your nature. America is not what you have to battle. Your nature is. I've been saying this all of my life. Many of you have heard me say it. When I say it, I think people are saying, that's a good point, and then life goes on. I have made peace with that. But I do know that some people on the 3rd or 10th hearing, it will engage the light to come through parted clouds. Oh, yeah. That's the only way to make a good society. Is to have people battle their crappy nature. Oh, freedom is a value. That's why there's a liberty bell. There's no breathing bell. Breathing comes naturally. There's no sex bell. Sex comes naturally. But there is a liberty bell, because liberty is a value. It doesn't come naturally. And there's a verse from the Torah on the liberty bell. It's the only thing on the liberty bell other than the company that made the bell. Torah, the first 5 books, everything in the Old and New Testaments are based on the Torah. It all comes from the first 5 books. That's why I'm devoting all these years, I mean years, to a commentary and an explanation of the first 5 books. The next volume comes out in June. I'm submitting it in 6 weeks. I'm submitting volume 3, Deuteronomy. Yep. There's a great line in there, you shall choose life. So you'd think, what? Is life a value too? Yeah, that's right. I mean, we are instinctively created to want life. But Egypt was a death-centered culture. The pyramids are tombs. Those monumental achievements of ancient Egypt are large tombs. That's how death-oriented Egyptian religion was. Its Bible was the Book of the Dead. But none of this is taught. You're taught preferred pronouns. The average 8th grader probably knows preferred pronouns better than when you use its with an apostrophe or not. Would you say that that's fair? Call last hour summarized everything. An immigrant from the Soviet Union said he's experiencing deja vu. That's correct. We have Bolsheviks. The only difference between the Democratic Party today, which is split between Bolsheviks and Mensheviks, and the Communist Party in the Soviet Union is the name. We have Bolsheviks and Mensheviks. AOC's a Bolshevik. Joe Biden's a Menshevik. The Mensheviks always lose because they're not as ruthless as the Bolsheviks. That's the way it works. 1-8-PRAGER 776-877-243 776. New England Journal of Medicine. Amazing. It's just, this is really something. November 19th. What is today? November 19th. Ha! It's dated today. Can't get more current than that. Transgender women in college athletic teams. The case of Lindsay Hikos. It's an Idaho case. By Janet Dolgan, Ph.D. and J.D. I looked her up. She has a Ph.D. in health science. She's not a doctor, which it doesn't matter to me, but it should matter if you want to, I assume, you write in the New England Journal of Medicine, but maybe it doesn't matter. That's fine. Just wanted you to understand it's not a doctor. She's a liberal activist, and they published her piece, which has nothing to do, zero to do with medicine in the New England Journal of Medicine. It's just a left-wing take on the right of transgender women, that is men who identify as women, which is, I'm not arguing against their identity. I'm arguing against the fairness of having them compete against biological women. The presumptive beneficiaries, this is those who argue that it's not fair for biological men to compete against biological women. This is what she writes in the New England Journal of Medicine, which is now having the left poison it. The presumptive beneficiaries are cisgender, i.e. non-transgender girls and women on school athletic teams who the law suggests, this is about the Idaho law, should not have to compete against transgender girls and women. That's correct. That is her. She's describing correctly. That is the presumptive beneficiaries. That is correct. Biological females. However, the assumption underlying the law's responses to transgender women and girls hoping to join sports teams are so flawed as to suggest animus. Get it? So this is their take. This is really important. I told you, I read the left more than I read the right. So this is their argument. You say it's not fair to, and by the way, see the PragerU video this week. It's from a 16-year-old girl who lost her titles to transgender girls, biological males, in track. And so their argument is it's so flawed these arguments, like this the debunked thing. It's debunked. It's debunked. There you go. That's what the left does. It's debunked. We'll see how she debunks it. It's so flawed that it suggests animus. But of course, animus has nothing to do with whether something is true or not. They always do this. They check on our motives. We'll be back.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Newt Gingrich said that if the absentee ballot requests and the absentee ballot submissions were done based on previous precedent, President Trump would have won the state by 40,000 votes. Officials in Fayette County unearthed 2,755 ballots that have not been included in the original count. 1,500 of them went for Trump, 1,100 for Biden. So that's a 400 vote gain for President Trump. The audit of votes in the presidential race also revealed missing votes in Walton County. 284 ballots were added from the between precinct. They netted 176 votes for President Trump. And Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's office cited human error and gross negligence in 2,600 missing votes in Floyd County. He called for the Floyd County election manager to resign. And now a Republican election monitor discovered 9,626 vote error in the DeKalb County hand recount. One batch was labeled 10,707 for Biden and 13 for Trump, an improbable margin even by DeKalb standards, when in reality, the actual count of the batch was 1,081 for Biden and 13 for Trump. To give you an idea, the Biden margin for error in this batch of votes was 99.9%. To give you an idea, Bashar al-Assad, when he ran in 2007, his margin was 97.6%. Raul Castro in 2008, 99.4%. But it did match Kim Jong-il's 2009 margin, 99.9%.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
The situation in each state is a little different. In Arizona, they are simply refusing to have a recount, and that's outrageous. The law says you're only entitled to a mandatory recount if you lost by fewer than 500 votes. And that's designed for dog catcher elections. But for president in a state that casts 3 million votes, you're not going to have a 500 vote margin. In Georgia, they're having a recount, but the inspectors are 40 feet away. There's no way the Republican can see them doing this recount, much less check the ballot.
What is that? What kind of a joke is that? I mean, I don't really even understand.
Democrats being partisan. It's the election.
It's called cheating, Dick. It's called cheating. How do you? How is that possible? How can the lawyers? How can this be possible that they would allow? Well, it's obviously cheating.
I think Trump's people were asleep at the switch and should have been there in these polling places protesting. Certainly the recount. During the recount, they were protesting, but they were not listened to. Also in Georgia, I think I said earlier, but let me repeat, there were 200 people between the ages of 105 and 110 who voted. There were 2,000 people over the age of 100 who were supposed to have voted. And there were 27,000 people over the age of 90, between 90 and 100, who were said to have voted. And I wish everybody health in Georgia, but somehow I don't think all those people actually voted.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh
Hello, my friends. I want to remind you, you need terribly a positive experience. My heart breaks for people who have been locked up for now 3/4 of a year. So here's one in normal times is extraordinary, and now it's life-saving, is the trip with me to Israel. Next October, there's a banner, Stand with Israel, a banner at DennisPrager.com. If you book, and obviously there's a limit to how many people can come. It's in the hundreds anyway, but we get that. And that's in normal times when people don't crave something like this. You'll meet wonderful people. That's half the bonus, I believe. It's next October, and you should know you can unbook. You can cancel your booking through May with a zero penalty, okay? So just, there's no reason not to book unless you don't want to go. I understand that. I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to go, but I understand that happens. Stand with Israel tour with me and my good friend Mike Gallagher. And that's next October at the banner at DennisPrager.com. DennisPrager.com. Talking about, you know my old joke, Prager, P as in pneumonia, or P as in psychology? I saw a children's book. You know, you have children's book, you learn the alphabet, like, Z for zebra, A for aardvark, right? There is a children's book. All the letters are taught where they don't fit the pattern. like G is for new, GNU, the animal. P, that's the title of the book. P is for pterodactyl. It is one of the funniest books I have ever seen. And I'd love to know, I salute the parent who reads that book to their child. Very important to have these things right now. All right, 1-8-PRAGER-776. So I am reading to you the New England Journal of Medicine, the corruption of that journal by the left. Everything they touch, they ruin. Get it? Hello, Philadelphia Orchestra. I read to you the piece they put out last year. They performed at one of the great halls and orchestras of the country, where they have some piece of music, and it features a young black boy yelling out, some curse word at the audience. You can't say anything because if you say the emperor's naked, they fire you or ostracize you. So this is the thing here. The article that in the New England Journal of Medicine that transgender females, that is biological males that identify as females, should be allowed. This is a scientific argument. Judge David Nye for the Federal District Court in Idaho concluded in response to preliminary motions that the law, that is the Idaho law, quote, was motivated by a desire for transgender exclusion rather than equality for women athletes. You understand how corrupt the judges have become of the left? That he doesn't rule on the merits of the issue, but on what he thinks the motives of the people who pass the law are. Get it? The claim that sex can be easily determined by reference to straightforward biological markers may seem persuasive. This is the New England Journal of Medicine. By the way, it is persuasive. The reference to straightforward biological markers like the XY or XX genes, like ovaries, like uterus. Yeah, I think that's persuasive. In reality, the biology underlying sex is complicated and open to continuing scientific review. This is in the New England Journal of Medicine. Really? The biology underlying sex is complicated. Similarly, the claim that it is unfair to cisgender women, that is, females who identify as females, athletes to allow transgender women on their sports teams may seem compelling. That's true, they do seem compelling. Both the defendants and the state legislators who voted for the law that effectively excluded Lindsay Hecox from participating in college sports on any women's team assumed that transgender women on athletic teams have a, quote, unfair advantage over cisgender women even after a year of treatment involving suppression of androgens. This assumption is not based on strong scientific evidence. Really? So a year's suppression of the production of testosterone, that makes you a female. Get it? This is the New England Journal of Medicine today. The Idaho law provides 3 criteria for resolving a dispute about the sex of a student athlete. A clinician verifying a student's sex may rely, quote, only on one or more of the following: the student's reproductive anatomy, genetic makeup, or normal endogenously produced testosterone levels. I'll explain to you. So there are 3 ways, according to Idaho law, of identifying whether you're male or female, one or more. Your reproductive anatomy. That clear? That should be clear to everybody, okay? Vagina, uterus versus penis. Okay, there you go. Testicles. 2, genetic makeup. I presume that is the genes, the chromosomes. And 3, normal and endogenously. That means you produce it by yourself rather than being given it. Produce testosterone levels. By any or all of these criteria, Hecox would probably be ineligible to participate on any women's college team in Idaho. But if clinicians were to assess athletes on the basis of circulating testosterone levels after treatment for hormone suppression, she would be able to play on the women's team. So in other words, genetic markers don't matter, reproductive organs don't matter, and whether you produce testosterone or not doesn't matter. All that matters are the levels of testosterone after having your testosterone suppressed by medicine.
The Dennis Prager Show. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So the intimidation, the fear of violence, the increase of violence we have witnessed across America for the last 10 months, that's what should make us happy? That we maybe dodged even more violence? Is that how America was founded? Is that how the Boston Tea Party occurred? That those who try to intimidate us succeed, and we see that as the silver lining? My friend's friend said, well, you know, if he takes the White House, at least now we'll have time that all of these things have been uncovered to fix them. And again, resisting my wife's blandishments to behave, I said, what? The Democrats are going to fix it? If Biden steals the election and he's in the White House, and they have the House of Representatives and potentially the Senate, if they can steal the Georgia runoffs as well, oh, that's when the Democrats fix things? That will be the conclusion they drew, that, oh, we stole this election. So now, let's make it harder for us to steal the next one. What planet are these people living on?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
They're not voting for 2 Senate seats in Georgia, although we have 2 extraordinary senators and candidates. They're voting whether or not they want Chuck Schumer to run the Senate. And, Joe Biden takes office, Joe Biden becomes president. It could be the difference between a radical, crazy person running labor, treasury, the Department of Defense, what have you, or someone we just don't agree with. I mean, but isn't, a radical crazy. I think that's part of it. And then the other part of it is particularly in the Loeffler race, but I think in both of them, but Loeffler race more particular is, this gentleman she's running against, every day something new comes out, and I know you've been focused on that somewhat this morning as well, apparently. But the video of him saying you can't serve God in the military is offensive and would come as a tremendous shock to the men and women in uniform and their families who, in fact, put their lives on the line so he can have the freedom not just to worship but to say things like that.
Let me play the clip for people who have just tuned in. This surfaced yesterday evening by Pastor Warnock in a 2011 sermon delivered, it seems, at the Ebenezer Baptist Church. It could be a different pulpit, but I believe it's the Ebenezer Church. Cut number 4.
America, nobody can serve God and the military. You can't serve God and money. You cannot serve God and mammon at the same time. America, choose ye this day whom you will serve.
Is that newsworthy, Senator Rubio?
Absolutely it is, because he's basically saying, and look, the rhetorical point, the broader point, right, that you can't have 2 masters is different from saying that you can't serve God and the military.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Newt Gingrich said that if the absentee ballot requests and the absentee ballot submissions were done based on previous precedent, President Trump would have won the state by 40,000 votes. Officials in Fayette County unearthed 2,755 ballots that have not been included in the original count. 1,500 of them went for Trump, 1,100 for Biden. So that's a 400 vote gain for President Trump. The audit of votes in the presidential race also revealed missing votes in Walton County. 284 ballots were added from the between precinct. They netted 176 votes.
I'm Dennis Prager. Do you know what I was talking to the living martyr, my producer, about? We were talking about the end of Deuteronomy. The richness of having, I know you thought video games. So I'm curious, Mr. Engineer, do you think of us more highly or less highly for what we were talking about? Or neither, neutral. More, he guesses he was thinking about it. Doesn't lower me in your eyes. That's beautiful. That is just beautiful. All right, everybody. I have a truly terrific human being on the line. There are a handful of fighters on Earth for good causes. She's one of them, Dr. Simone Gold. You may recall she organized the Conference of Physicians by the White House. Was it by the White House? Dr. Gold, was it by the White House?
It was actually by the Supreme Court.
By the Supreme Court. Yeah, see, I knew I wasn't right. I didn't know why I was wrong. Now I know. Anyway, Dr. Simone Gold is an emergency room physician. Her new book is I Do Not Consent, My Fight Against Medical Cancel Culture. This is huge, what you're writing about. It is huge, what is going on. And I just want to know, has Amazon interfered with your book?
So far, we've done very well on Amazon, and I am dreading the day that they decide to censor me. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to come on your show is I love you and I love your listeners, and I want to make sure they get a chance to see it.
That's a lot of love to love me and my listeners. I mean, you are one loving creature. You are actually. I got to know Dr. Gold. This is a very special human being. So, did you, by the way, talking about the corruption of medicine, I don't know if you heard it or not. I read from the New England Journal of Medicine, today's issue, November 19th, and it was about how science shows that testosterone levels alone determines your sex, not reproductive organs, not genetic makeup, nothing. Just that, and therefore it is completely fair to have transgender girls compete against cisgender girls.
Yeah. I was listening to the show before I hopped on, and I have nothing but admiration for how you called it. You were completely accurate. It was a disgrace what the judge said.
And a disgrace that the New England Journal of Medicine published it.
I want to say that the reason I wrote a book to answer your question about this judge and the transgender testosterone issue, I was asked two things the most in the last few months. One is, how do I get my hands on hydroxychloroquine? And the second was, how do I recognize when I'm being propagandized? I'm not a doctor. How do I recognize that? This book explains how to recognize propaganda in real time. So issues like the New England Journal of Medicine saying a boy is not a boy and a girl is not a girl, or they're interchangeable. How do I know as the average person what's real, what's not real when experts are telling me something? This book teaches people a way of problem solving that will teach them to recognize propaganda in real time.
Wow. For that alone. I mean, I know you, and I haven't read the book yet, but I promise you and my listeners I will.
Let me explain. I'll give your readers a taste. So I give an acronym. It's called My PDQ Freedom. And again, doctors, people, you don't have to be a doctor to recognize what happened. There's a lot of doctors who've drunk the Kool-Aid. It's not a matter of education. But when you keep my acronym in mind, and the P stands for prior, what has the science, or what is the elite, or what is common life experience told you prior to the event that's trying to be propagandized?
Brilliant.
What has happened prior teaches, informs you about what the real facts are. So that's just one of the 5 steps in the My PDQ Freedom that teaches you how to recognize propaganda. It's a mission I'm on.
The book, as I was about to say, because I want to promote it so vigorously, is I Do Not Consent, My Fight Against Medical Cancel Culture. Is what opened your eyes to the medical cancel culture, the hydroxychloroquine issue?
Yes. I spoke a lot about hydroxychloroquine because it's very black and white. And if we can fool people into thinking that an ordinary FDA-approved medication for decades is somehow unsafe, then you can fool Americans in anything. It's so clear. There's so much propaganda, but the hydroxychloroquine is especially easy.
All right, we're going to pursue that. That's very important to me. Very. By the way, I take it every week with zinc, just for the record. Full disclosure. Ladies and gentlemen, talking about medicine, while this does not qualify under the term officially as medicine, it has a huge physical benefit, relief factor. If you're skeptical, go to the relieffactor.com website. See the videos, read the statements. I know them to be accurate. I know how many people have thanked me. I was digging up through files that I had not seen in a while. Somebody sent me an email, and I didn't mention it on the air. I printed it out, and I didn't bring it into the studio. They're on a tractor. Said the only reason we could ride this tractor is Relief Factor. Give it a 3-week trial for $19.95 at relieffactor.com. The Dennis Prager Show, live from the...
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Do that, and the president himself is convinced that without a question, if we counted the votes accurately, he really did win. And you yourself are convinced of that. I take you very seriously.
Yeah, I'm totally convinced of it. So here's what we need to do. The president emphasized to me that the power to assign electors, to choose the electors who actually choose the president, is vested in Article 2, Section 1, look it up yourself, of the U.S. Constitution in the state legislatures. And he said that he felt that the key need here was to mobilize the Republican leaders of these states. All of these states that are at issue are controlled by Republican state legislatures. 4 of the 5 have Democratic governors. Georgia has an anti-Trump Republican. But the point is all 5 have Republican legislatures. And he was urging me to tell people to call the speakers and majority leaders of those houses to urge them to count the votes accurately. All signatures be verified. In some states, there's a court order not to verify signatures, but the legislature can override that. Secondly, to check to make sure that all counting and recounting and auditing is done with a Republican inspector right near it at the table, watching it as it's happening. And finally, that the Trump people be given a full list of the registered voters who cast votes so that they may check that to find out who's still alive and what the deal is.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Here's some big picture stuff. 2 things are going to remain true. Much of the country will stay convinced that this election was not legitimate, it wasn't fair, it wasn't accurate, it wasn't right. Much of the country, including those who are glad Biden supposedly won, are glad that there was such chaos and a nightmarish election. They're celebrating. They don't care how Trump lost. They don't care how he gets defeated. They don't care if it's an impeachment that will do it. Doesn't bother them if it's a phony Russia investigation. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's leaks from the White House and people stabbing in the back who are supposed to serve at the pleasure of the president. It doesn't matter if the media lies about polls. 17 points Biden was going to beat.
All right, everybody, I want to remind you that I am going on a cruise with you from England to Iceland. When is it? What month?
June.
In June. These always sell out. For 25 years, I've sold out, and this will too. And you will have the time of your life with spectacular people. So just go. There's information on it at DennisPrager.com. I can't wait. I really. This is the first year in 25 years that I haven't cruised with listeners. It's the first year in all of my life since I'm 20 that I didn't go abroad. I was supposed to be in Hungary this week.
Not for lack of trying.
Not for lack of trying. And not for lack, oh God, the folks in Hungary, they so tried. But I would have been quarantined in my hotel room for 2 weeks. Not my wife and my image of a great trip. Back to Dr. Simone Gold, the emergency room physician who organized the conference in front of the Supreme Court that was suppressed by the social media. She's written a short book that is critical. I Do Not Consent is the title, My Fight Against Medical Cancel Culture, and it began with hydroxychloroquine. That really meets your criterion of, wait a minute, what was the prior experience with hydroxychloroquine? 50 years of massive and safe use, correct?
Correct. Exactly. So that would be an example of of learning how to recognize propaganda in real time using hydroxychloroquine. Just today there was a Senate hearing in the Department of Homeland Security with physicians testifying about early treatments such as with hydroxychloroquine. There was one doctor up there who was saying there was no early treatment, and then he went on to say that hydroxychloroquine was not safe. Right then and there, as a non-physician, you can recognize propaganda because you would say to yourself, well, my goodness, what did all the evidence say about it for 65 years? That it was safe. That's how you recognize propaganda in real time, is by recognizing information that existed prior to the politicized event.
I have a moral and philosophical question about the word to lie. It's a very terrible thing to accuse someone of. And so if someone believes they're lying, are they lying? I don't know the answer to that to this day. They're lying, but is it the same as one who knows they're not telling the truth? So I am curious. A doctor says, I assume under oath, if he's testifying, well, no, I don't think all testimony is under oath, but let just leave it as testimony. Do you believe that this doctor on a lie detector test would pass? Do you really believe hydroxychloroquine is not safe? What would he pass the test?
I have two things to say. I have no doubt that he would fail that test. There's no chance he thinks hydroxychloroquine is not safe. One of the other points about recognizing propaganda is when you look at people's motives, you actually have to ignore their motives because we never know what people's motives actually are. You have to look at, people say to me, well, Dr. Fauci wouldn't say this, or Dr. Birx wouldn't say this, or the FDA wouldn't do this. And my answer is, I don't know why they did or what they did or how they did. I know the results. I know that they came up with rules that stopped people from getting a life-saving medicine. That's what I know. But to answer your specific question, there's no chance that this fellow didn't know that it's safe.
I think that's an excellent answer. I agree. I agree. That's my, having heard you say that, that's my assessment too. How could any doctor say hydroxychloroquine is not safe? Is it true that there are places in the world where it's over the counter?
It's actually, the majority of human beings in the world have access to hydroxychloroquine without a physician. Many countries, as you know, I think I told you this, it was over the counter even in France, it was over the counter in Mexico, it was over the counter in really all of Africa. One of the crimes of this tragedy of COVID is that in countries where hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine, its precursor, is widely available over the counter, the death rates are a fraction. And when I say a fraction, I mean 1 or 2% of ours. We're talking 1/100th or 2/100ths of what ours is.
I take it every week with zinc.
Of course.
Do you recommend that everybody, I don't know, over 50, everybody with a comorbidity, who do you recommend does that as a prophylactic?
I recommend you go to americasfrontlinedoctors.com and you read hydroxychloroquine protocols. The short answer is if you're over 65 or with comorbid conditions, you certainly should consider being on it prophylactically, which is a very tiny dose once a week. Like you said, you must take zinc with it. And if you're younger than that and you're very healthy and you don't want to, you should still have it in your medicine cabinet, because if you come down with SARS-CoV-2, you will have it immediately available, and you get it in your bloodstream. If you have it very early, it really attenuates the course, and you get very mildly sick. I've had many friends who chose to do just that. If you're older, you should take it prophylactically, and if you're younger, you should have it available in your cabinet.
And again, what is the website they go to?
Everyone should go to americasfrontlinedoctors.com, and they should sign up for telemedicine consults. They should get the medicine. They will get it. It will be mailed to them, and then they won't have to rely on the government's failure to provide it.
America's Frontline Doctors?
Sorry, I talked too quickly. America's Frontline Doctors.
America singular, not possessive.
Plural. America's FrontlineDoctors.com.
I feel stupid. Would you spell the first word? I really want to get this.
Of course.
Okay.
America's. How about we go the acronym? A as in Apple, S as in Frank, L as in Larry, D as in David, S as in Sam, for America's Frontline Doctors.com.
Okay. So
AFLDS.
Gotcha. So, by the way, folks, it's up at DennisPrager.com. The link. Okay, that's even easier. So that's where they would go. So listen to this study. I'm sure you're not aware of this because it just came out. A woman that you know well named Susan sent it to me. People, this is ABC 7, I guess maybe New York, but anyway, it's about a study by scientists in Spain. People who walk their dogs are 78% more likely to contract COVID-19, new study finds, done by scientists in Spain. When we come back, I just want you to use your criteria to tell us how to assess that study.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
My guest book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. He is Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. Dr. Donald Trump recovered pretty quickly from the time that he announced that he had contracted the coronavirus. Were you surprised he bounced back so fast?
I wasn't, for a couple reasons. Number one, he was treated early with mild symptoms. Although they took him to the hospital, it probably wasn't necessary. Also, although I don't know this, I believe he was already on hydroxychloroquine, which reduces viral replication. In addition, he was on multiple supplements that work really well, and that includes things like zinc, melatonin, and vitamin C. And so I wasn't surprised, and he had world-class therapeutics at his disposal, and I think anybody would recover quickly if they're treated early with mild symptoms.
Doctor, why is hydroxychloroquine so controversial?
Because Donald Trump, way back in the day, during his press conference, made mention of it, and it's very cheap, and it's generic, and they hate Donald Trump. So immediately that drug became political to the point that pharmacies were refusing to dispense it when I'd write a prescription, and other doctors as well. And the Medical Board of California came out with a statement that said prescribing hydroxychloroquine could subject a physician to unprofessional conduct. Never in the history of my career has the Medical Board put out such a statement, especially with a drug that is not controlled, meaning it's easy to write for. You don't need a special prescription. It's been around for 65 years, and it's available over the counter in many countries, but not ours.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Okay. All right, everybody. It's America's. So it's America's without an apostrophe. That's how I get it. But anyway, the America's Frontline Doctors is up at DennisPrager.com. Just before I get back with this final question to Dr. Simone Gold, I just want to say to some callers, Mike in Sycamore, Illinois, I'd like you to call tomorrow because I want people to understand what homeschooling is about. We have to withdraw from many of society's institutions to preserve this country. The schools are probably the first. We've already done it with the media. And I don't know why people would opt to have poison in their children's souls and minds. Mike and El Segundo, same with you, and about the New England Journal of Medicine. Jeffrey in Philadelphia. I'd like to hear what you witnessed and filed with the court in the voting there. Simone Gold is the doctor. She's a fighter and has been canceled. It started with hydroxychloroquine. The blood that is on the hands of the opponents of hydroxychloroquine is clear to me, is quite extensive. Anyway, Dr. Gold's book is I Do Not Consent. It is up at DennisPrager.com. My Fight Against Medical Cancel Culture. So you offer people a way to try to figure out if they're being propagandized. So here's a test for you. This you did not hear of till I read it, I'm sure. ABC News, people who walk their dogs are 78% more likely to contract COVID-19. New study finds, study from scientists in Spain. How should I react to that headline and story?
You know, I was so happy to get that question because you're right. I didn't hear it, and it sounds so strange, and it's a perfect example how to recognize propaganda. The Y in the acronym MyPDQ Freedom, the Y stands for Your Life Experience. One of the things that's gone terribly wrong is we're being told that we should not listen to our own life experience or common sense in favor of experts. When you are hearing things that contradict your own life experience, it's not that you couldn't be wrong, your life experience. It's just that you must be very, very suspicious, and you should not automatically listen to experts over your own life experience. If everything you ever knew for the last 30 or 50 years on the planet doesn't jive with what the quote-unquote experts are saying, it's very likely the experts are saying something for a different motive. That's what I would say to that. The acronym MyPDQ Freedom ends also with freedom. Any rule or regulation or policy that has as its end result an encroachment or abridgment of your freedom must be looked at very critically. I mean the difference between like a criminal case and a civil case. If you're going to have a civil case, you look at something and you say, there has to be a lot of evidence. There has to be a preponderance of the evidence. Kind of thought of as 51% of the evidence going in that direction.
All right, I got to leave it at there. Dr. Simone Gold's book is up at my website. All right.